So welcome to the Future City Middle School New Educator Info Session. We have an experienced educator panel for this competition season. My name is Ashley Wertz, and I am the Future City Middle School Program Manager. We are very excited that you all are here and to dive a little bit more into the Future City program. We have a lot in store for you on this call. You'll hear from 3 educators who have been in the program, ready to share some tips and tricks for you and help answer your questions on how to get started. Whether you're a new or returning educator, we are very excited that you are here. This session will be recorded and uploaded into the Educators Resources section of the Future City dashboard. If you have any questions throughout the PowerPoint, feel free to put them into the chat. We'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So if we don't get to your questions as we're going throughout the webinar, we will have some time at the end to answer all of your questions. Here's a look at our agenda for today. We're just going to give an overview and talk about some key ways to participate, the team structures, a little bit of details into the program, the timeline, and then we'll hear from our experienced educators, and then the Q&A at the end. A little bit of background into Future City. Future City is a hands-on experience where students become the engineers. They learn so many valuable skills from increasing their math and science to teamwork and self-confidence. Future City begins with one simple question: how can we make the world a better place? Future City has grown year after year, where last year we reached just over 80,000 students from all over the world. Future City aims to make the program accessible to everyone and is a cross-curricular program. So each year, students are tasked with building a city 100 years into the future based on a different challenge each year. This year's challenge is Farm to Table, where students are challenged with designing a city that eliminates food waste from farm to table while keeping its citizens healthy and safe. Students are joined by educators and mentors to help them along their journey. So let's talk about a couple of different ways that you can participate. We have resource only, which gives you free access to all of the Future City materials, including the handbook, rubrics, theme information, and more. You're just self-guiding yourself through the program. You won't submit any deliverables or compete in the competitions. And then we have full competition, which is $25, a registration fee per organization. Full competition means that you must complete all of the deliverables and fully compete in your regional competition. In full competition, you're eligible for prizes and special awards. And also, if you have already registered for resource only, but you would like to switch to full competition at any time, just reach out to us at futurecity at discovery.org, and then we can help you get switched over. The team structure, so teams must consist of 3 students minimum, grades 6 through 8, 1 educator and 1 mentor, which is optional for your team. Team mentors must be registered and have completed the mandatory background check by January 5th of 2026. There's 1 mentor per team. And then teams can have more than 3 students. We've seen teams with 20 to 30 students. So the size is up to you. And then, so some teams meet for a couple of hours a week after school, but there's no set schedule or right or wrong time for your team to meet. And on this next slide here, we'll talk about the deliverables for the competition. So first we have the essay, which is a key competition deliverable where students showcase their understanding of the city in 1,500 words, guided by the outline and the rubric. So they should really focus on the most important aspects, use drafts to define their work, and submit the final version online by the region's deadline. Next, we have the model. It's a creative deliverable where students design a city using mostly recycled materials, staying within a $100 budget and including at least 1 moving part. So teams should follow the rubric and the guidelines, use creativity in material choices, and then plan their display as carefully to meet all of the competition requirements. Next, we have the presentation, which is a key deliverable where 3 team members showcase their city and the model in a 7-minute presentation, followed by an 8-minute Q&A with judges. So students should use the rubric and practice, record and review to really refine it and ensure that they're meeting all of the criteria to deliver a polished and engaging presentation. And then finally, the project plan is a season-long tool with 4 deliverables. So it's goal setting, set a schedule, check-ins, and reflect. That keeps the teams organized and on track. And then so they have to meet the mid-December and pre-competition deadlines that are set by your region. And on the next slide here, here's a quick timeline, and a good suggested timeline as you're reading the slide for brainstorming with your team is September. Really research and brainstorm with your team. So really start that now. This is a good time. And then October, you'll design your city. November, you build it. And then January, you present it. So some support that we offer from Future City, we have resources where Future City provides a wide range, including the handbook, rubrics, sample essays, model photos, and team presentations. These are all to guide your students through each stage of the competition. You'll also find tools for managing deliverables, expenses, and submissions. You'll find activities, research strategies. And so there's a lot to help keep your team organized and on track. Next, we have the monthly educator calls. We have one call every month. It's a relaxed setting where you can come and ask any questions that you have about the competition or just listen in to questions that other educators have. Our theme webinar, which is coming up next week on Wednesday, you will hear from 3 experts in around this year's theme. So they provide insights into the year's theme with practical ideas and how to approach the theme. And it's an excellent starting point for your team to start developing ideas and coming up with a great model to start implementing into the competition. We also have a mentor support call that is for our mentors. It's, again, a casual setting. You'll hear from a couple of experienced mentors on their experience, and then they'll answer questions. Again, you can just come in and sit in and listen to other mentors that have questions. And then finally, our regional coordinators, they are a fantastic resource to utilize. They're there to support you every step of the way. They are deeply familiar with the competition and dedicated to helping your team succeed. So don't hesitate to reach out to them if you have questions. On the next slide here, this is just a quick snapshot of all the upcoming support calls, the educator info sessions, and theme webinars that we have coming up. This will be recorded and uploaded into the dashboard, but you'll also receive emails that give you insights into these calls where you can register directly from the email. So it's just good to keep this on your calendar. All right, so we won't spend too much time on this slide here, but if your team does advance to the finals competition, we'll reach out to coordinate the flight and hotel accommodations. And then just please note that the same 3 presenters from your regional competition must also present at finals. Teams that compete in your regional competition are eligible for a number of special awards. So I'd recommend checking with your regional coordinator for a list of those special awards that are offered in your region. And then for the finals competition, teams are also eligible for special awards and prizes. The top 5 are listed below. So first place is $10,000 for your organization's STEM program. Second place is $5,000. Third is $2,000, and then 4th and 5th receive $750. All right. And then there are 37 US regions. They are regional coordinators for every region. Again, they're a great resource to use for your questions about your regional competition or the program in general. They are there to support you, and you can reach out to them by visiting this link here, futurecity.org/regions. But again, a great resource to utilize. Now for the fun part, I think. So today's panel, I want to introduce you to 3 educators that I'm excited for you to hear from. So we have 3 amazing educators. They generously volunteered to share about their Future City experience to help give you tips and tricks on how to get started. So our first speaker is from Ohio. Juliet Soncoli led her Girl Scouts troop through the competition and placed 7th at last year's finals competition. We also have TJ Copel joining us on the call, who is an educator out of Minnesota. He is going into his 15th year of coaching Future City and joined us in last year's finals competition. And then our third speaker is Amanda Harris from Kentucky, who has taught Future City for 10 years and also joined us at last year's finals competition in Washington, D.C. Now, a little bit further introduction into our first speaker, Juliet. She's been a volunteer with Girl Scouts of the USA since 2016. She has taken on the role of troop leader shortly after joining, now entering her 10th year as co-leader of her Girl Scouts troop in Girl Scouts of Western Ohio Council. And in addition, she is the educator and coach of her troop's Future City team. The team won the Ohio regional competition last year and went on to place 7th in the finals competition. So I will hand it over to you, Juliet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So a quick introduction. So I am a Girl Scout troop leader. We did have a 7-member team last year, and all our members actively participate in all parts of the project, and we had some take the lead according to their strengths. In terms of meeting schedule, we started the year with weekly meetings, kind of like August through October, and then stepped it up into 2 meetings per week in the November-December timeframe, and then the team elected to meet even more as the month of December concluded and we were approaching the deadline in January. And especially as a Girl Scout troop where we aren't confined by the school schedule, that was something we were able to do. In terms of order of work, the Create Your Future City graphic from the handbook is roughly what we followed. The research phase, then going into a rough draft of the essay, beginning the model build, drafting a rough draft for the presentation, then circling back to the essay to finalize that with the model and then the presentation, and then following the project plans throughout. Okay, next slide. So starting out, the handbook provides all the information you need to set your team up for success. As an educator, you should take the time to familiarize yourself with it and provide your students access to it. Below are the most used handbook sections that our team found helpful. The research questions, and then in bold, the city design and city presentation were the ones we continually refer to again and again throughout the season. Also helpful, the suggested outline for the essay, the rubrics, and of course the competition rules and scoring deductions. Okay. So I would say that there is no substitute for attending a regional competition, both for educators as well as students. If you have an opportunity to attend your regional competition, do so. Especially for first-year competitors or those considering competing, it truly is a revelation. I mean, students get to see firsthand how the competition works. They'll get an opportunity to speak to students about their cities and experiences, and it really just gives them some perspective. And it could be incredibly motivating and inspiring to see what other students are doing. I know that's not always feasible for everyone. I'd certainly encourage teams to watch the top presentations that are posted to the dashboard with your team. We sprinkle these in across multiple meetings and have your team assess what they like, dislike, what they would do differently, and have them craft their presentation based on that. Okay, next. So starting out, also introduce your team to a project management tool. We kept it pretty simple with Google Sheets with tasks, due dates, assignments, and prioritization. That let the team have ownership of their schedule. We would have regular reviews of that document. Also, we conducted team check-in reports or fill those out after every meeting. It's important because when you get to the reflection stage and their team members are crafting their answers to judges' questions, it's helpful to look back. And on the right, you'll see some of the key graphics we would put in front of our students. The Create Your Future City, which is a timeline we roughly followed, as well as the engineering design process, just to keep that in front of them and constantly at the forefront of their minds. Okay, next. So other tips, competition expense form. Keep careful records right from the start. You can have your team track their material usage and expenses. Keep a folder with receipts And remember, there is a 20-point penalty for misrepresentation, so be as accurate and as honest as possible on that. And so a good corollary, next slide, is if you or your team have any questions whatsoever that are not in the handbook or seem unclear, write them down. Keep a document of those and ask your region's future city board. They can provide the necessary clarifications and information you need. An example from us is our team was not sure how to handle hyphenated words and unit symbols with respect to word count. So that was valuable information that the board provided us during last year's season. So use your board for any questions you may have. Next. Okay, city selection. I would encourage teams to select an actual city. It provides them a grounding in the current state of how that city operates and the problems that they're facing, and thus the solutions that would exist a century from now. It also lets the team members fold in the culture and the history, and don't let them worry too much about selecting the perfect city. The team members should have reasons why it was selected, but get them started on research and going to the questions. Don't let them get bogged down about picking the absolute perfect city that everyone agrees on. Okay, next. So remember that research builds the solid foundation on which everything else is based. So a good amount of our year starts with several weeks, almost like a month and change of just research. You take the questions outlined in the handbook. The team members divide up the work according to what they're interested in and what they want to look into, and they get to it. They create a research document from which the essay then develops. And this research will inform the essay, and then that essay informs the model and presentation. As you do the essay, rotate editors when you get to that final draft mode, keeping the set of eyes looking at it fresh, and don't be afraid to step away and come back. Okay, next. So also for model tips and tricks, start collections of recyclables early. Ask students to mindfully collect what they need. Small objects are often most valuable. Don't overlook recyclable papers, crafting scraps, and trash. I would also encourage students to visit their local hardware store just to see what's out there. It's not only for potential parts for, say, a moving part, it is actually to spark ideas and innovation from what they see there. It might give them some fascinating perspectives on what could be possible. Also, local dollar and bargain stores can help stretch your team's budget. Okay, next. Continuing on, create a model to-do list. Have your team list the structures, features, moving parts they want in their city. Put up a paper copy in their workspace. That way they can see what progress is being made and check off the items that are done. Also, with regard to scale, I would encourage an activity. Let them have thoughtful discussion on what that scale would be. And then once they've decided, have them notate a handful of objects and the scale associated with them, so like a 2-story building, the roadway, etc., so that they have quick reference points. And keep those rulers handy throughout the model building phase. They will need them. Okay, next. And presentation. Really, the one tip is practice, practice, practice. So I would encourage presenters to practice in front of one another. Initially, it could be each other and their fellow teammates. Then, if you have the ability to assemble a judging panel with mentors or teachers that may not necessarily know the intricate details, so they can also have fresh eyes and ears, that would be great. And they would ask the same questions that the judges would from the handbook, and also complete the rubric for feedback. Have your students practice moving, both around the model, their aides, and one another while they're speaking. And practice doing equal time, both for presentation and those judges' questions. Okay, next slide. One of the challenges, I would say, is presenter selection. When you have more than 3 students that are expressing interest in being presenters, it could be tough. So I would suggest clearly defining your presenter selection process right in the beginning of the year that the students agree to. If you do a team agreement, something formal, obviously included in there. An option could be that presenters present in front of impartial judging panel or panels, and they're judged on a rubric and criteria to help with the selection process, kind of akin to auditioning for, say, a theatrical performance, but with solid criteria to judge it by. And do not let other team members decide. This is fun for teachers, mentors, and panelists to assist in that process. Okay, next. Okay, so all things to know is let your team members know there will be elements of the essay, the model, and the presentation that do not make the final cut. Our team members worked very well and very objectively to edit all three according to the handbook and tried to polish theirs up. And remember that no research is for naught. A strong knowledge base will serve the team well throughout the competition cycle. Why? Well, the presenters are expected to have a good depth of knowledge on all the topics related to our city for the presentation and the special awards judges. But even so, they will not have the answers to all the questions posed. So have team members practice their appropriate responses for scenarios when they don't know the answer. Okay, next. Of course, time can be an issue. Students are constantly involved in activities. Have a conversation about them, about the expectations, and so that they can understand each other's schedule and what sort of time commitment and attendance they expect of one another if it's not being done during set school hours. Of course, if you're able, rotational meeting dates and times can help, and sharing documents to keep members up to date if they're unable to attend. Okay, next. And some quick lessons learned. We learned that team agreements can be beneficial. They set expectations, guidelines, and define steps should conflicts arise. We found that students come in with their own defined strengths and skill sets, and they left realizing they really had additional skills, strengths, and capabilities that they didn't know they had. And students will never cease to amaze you with the dedication and hard work that they put into this. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Juliet. That was great. I really loved the idea of students going to the hardware store. That is a great way to spark some ideas. So that was a great idea. And the students really will amaze you once you see their hard work and their dedication. So I totally agree with you there. Next, let's see here. All right, we have TJ. So a little bit more about TJ. He has been teaching in Minneapolis public schools since 2006. He's been to Justice Page Middle School since 2015, and this is his 15th year coaching Future City, and it's his highlight of the school year every year. So with that, I will hand it over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm not nearly as organized as Juliet was. I'm the person that does not read the instructions. I throw them in the trash and then just kind of jump in. So if I seem a little disjointed, that's just kind of how I am by default. But looking at Future City in all seriousness, it really is just like the most fun. I came to Future City with a little note card in my mailbox that said addressed to teacher. I had just started a new school. I didn't know what I was doing. I had 4 sections of science and I had to fill a 5th section with a mystery elective. So that little card kind of saved my bacon. And in the 15 years since, it really has kind of changed everything for me. A lot of opportunities have opened up for me. But more importantly, a lot of opportunities have opened up for my students. I've bounced around schools a little bit, not by choice, but I've moved around a little bit. I have taught Future Cities to students who barely spoke English, and I have taught Future Cities to some of the most brilliant students you could come across, and all points in between. And all of them, regardless, have walked away from this project thinking that was the best thing I did all school year. Why can't we just do that all the time? So it really is fun for me to be here and to do this kind of thing because I really do enjoy Future City. It really kind of changed everything for me, so I'm happy to be here. So looking, first of all, there was a mention of a mentor. I know mentors are optional, but absolutely find one. Reach out to your regional coordinator. Ask around your community. A lot of times, if you contact local political offices like the mayor, city council, some cities have even city engineers. You can line up engineers that way. I know here in Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis likes to farm out some of its city engineers to others. Yes, mentors can serve more than one team. In fact, here, the way that I set it up, So I run this as a class. It's built into our school day. So I currently this year I have 10 teams competing for those top 3 spots. And my one engineer mentor, John, who you can see here in the picture in the background, he's been with me all 15 years, and he helps out with each one of those teams. Thankfully, at this point, he's retired, so he's got the time to help me manage so many teams. But yes, one mentor can absolutely help multiple teams. John does it every year. The other thing is the handbook was mentioned as well. I'm actually quoted in the handbook as saying to read it because I fell down. I didn't read it. Again, I throw the directions out of the box and just jump in. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I'd have read the handbook. The handbook was redesigned a few years ago to put the competition stuff up front for folks who are returning. But if you were new to the Future City, start at the back of the second half of the handbook. It really kind of outlines what the project is about. It gives you some practice projects to kind of get you up and running. If you're completely new to this, the back half of the handbook is set up to really be of assistance to somebody who's new to the program. And if you are here and you're a returning educator, you might have noticed, yeah, you've done all that stuff before. So then start at the front. The front is really about the deliverables. The back half is really about running your teams. And if you've never run a team before, it's a great resource to get you started there. Like I said, reach out to your community. It's unbelievable the people you can get to come talk to your students about the project if you just ask. Here in Minneapolis, I get city council members. I've had mayors, city engineers, heads of power or sewer department come in. I've reached out to my community and had architects and had just all kinds of people when all I simply said was, "Will you come talk to us about what you do?" And they were like, "Absolutely." No one ever asks me. No one ever cares about what I do. And they come in and they speak to a rapt audience of the students who really want to know because they want to build this stuff in. And it's fun for them to hear from somebody who does this for a living instead of just me. It's one thing for me to tell them, yeah, this is what a city engineer does. It's another thing for a city engineer to come in and say, this is what I do. It also gives you some street cred when the student's like, oh, the teacher actually knew what they were talking about here because the real person said the same thing he did. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. Regional coordinators are your absolute best friend. Get to know them, especially if you're new to the program. I could not enjoy my regional coordinator more here in Minnesota, Colleen. She's just phenomenal. She puts up a lot with a lot of my shenanigans. I've been a high maintenance customer over the years, but she has been so helpful in guiding and setting up not just the regional competition, but answering all kinds of questions. I had a question last year that I had asked my regional coordinator, and she ended up pushing it all the way to the top of Discover E to get an answer because that's just how helpful she is, and it was great. So, regional coordinators, fabulous. Have them, make friends with them. They're so good. They're so helpful. Um, and they really can guide you, especially if you're new to this. And I'm not even new to this. I've been doing this forever, and I still lean on my regional coordinator every year to kind of help me get it together. As Juliet was mentioning, multiple deliverables at once is a good way to go, although it's overwhelming at first. If you're trying to manage writing the essay, doing the model, doing the presentation, if you're trying to have all of those kind of combined at once, it can get overwhelming. But the handbook does offer a sample schedule of kind of approximately when to work on different things. And that is a good benchmark. Ultimately, follow along with what your team is comfortable with doing. Don't push them so hard that they either fall apart or quit. You want to keep them interested, but you don't want to overwhelm them, especially if it's their first time, and double, especially if they're sixth graders. I teach predominantly eighth graders, so I can drive them as hard as possible, and they stick with it. Sixth graders, it depends on your students, but doing multiples at one time is great for time management, but it can be a lot if you're just starting out. What else did I write down here? Um, Organizational strategies. We used to use Jamboard until Google shut it down and can't use it anymore. So we kind of rely on Google Classroom. We are a Google site here in Minneapolis, so students have access to all the Google Suite stuff, so they can manage that. We've had success with that. Staying organized when they're not meeting as a team can be a challenge. In the 21st century, there's text threads. I had a group of gamers set up a Discord server one year, and that's how they talk to each other. But really, again, in this realm, At 45 years old, I'm kind of like, you know what? You all are young people. You all know how to talk to each other better than I do at this point. And they come up with some pretty creative ways to kind of manage their project. And as is mentioned, project management and organization is one of the deliverables for the project plan. So whatever they come up with, try to keep a record of it. So when you turn in that project plan, you have like evidence of this is how my team or our team stayed organized throughout the project. So yeah, the engineering design process, super important. In all the years, and I'm sure the other educators here can attest to this, all the years I've ever done Future City, every team, every level of competition, the question that gets asked every year from every team, how did your team use the engineering design process to do XYZ? So having them be familiar with how to answer that question not only is great knowledge base for them to know the engineering cycle and how they got to where they got, but it also is a great answer for judges when they ask that question. Being able to answer that question is really important. My engineer mentor always likes to say, engineers love hearing about themselves and what they do. So the more you can speak to them in their language, the better. And what better way to do that than outlining the engineering design process as often as you can, in a way that makes sense and is detailed and shows that you actually know how this works. When students are making a city, it's really easy for them to get stuck on an ideal situation. The example I always use here is taxes. My students always want to tax the rich and don't tax the poor. And that sounds great on paper, but the city just doesn't work that way. If you tax the rich and all the rich leave, then you just lost your tax base, which means you can't fund your city. So I always encourage students to find, instead of idealistic expectations, set realistic expectations. The point of the program is to make the world a better place. And that's absolutely possible, but be sure that you're making the world a better place within reason. Not just focusing on let's make everything in our city free. Well, that doesn't really work. Staying practical, and also staying true to the idea of scientifically possible. Teleporters are great. Star Trek's awesome. It's not a real thing. There's no such thing as hyperdrive from Star Wars. It's just not real. So be sure that they're focusing on things that are actually possible and can be done, and that they know the limitations of what they're coming up with. Because there's nothing worse than being stuck in front of a bunch of professionals and going sci-fi, and then it's like, well, you realize that I've had more than one, well, actually, from judges over the years of that doesn't work that way. So try to avoid that. And then also the idea that every plus has a minus. This is just the idea that as they're building out their city, keep in mind, all right, you've done this one good thing. Future City is big on risks and trade-offs. So you've made one step forward. What is the step back that might come with that? And being able to manage that out is really key. It's something that my teams struggle with because they come up with all these, they look at all these great ideas. They're really proud of their ideas. So it's really difficult when you're proud of something to look back and say, why would this not work? Well, I'm proud of it. I came up with it because it's cool and I want it to work. But making sure they know that, yes, it might work. There might be something bad that comes with it. Does the bad outweigh the good? And if the answer is yes, go with it. And if the answer is no, how can you fix it? Or should you rethink your original premise? Is the way to look at it there. As far as presentation wise, because I had a bad experience with this once, I always remind the students that when they are speaking, some of them don't have a lot of experience speaking in front of other people. Some of them have a lot of experience speaking with other people. So I had a group one year who went in and they were kind of nervous. A couple of young guys came in and told a joke to make them feel at ease. And my students completely fell into this trap of these guys are our friends. And all I could do was watch and cringe as they were joking around. And then when they got the scores back, couldn't understand why they did so bad. It's the idea of friendly versus friends. Just keeping the students in mind that, yes, they might be young people, they might be hip people, they might come in and make you feel at ease. That doesn't mean they want to go get burgers after competition. Like they're there to be friendly, but be professional. It's something I didn't think I would need to tell students until once again, I had to sit and cringe in the back as they thought this was a hangout session with a bunch of friends and they got it handed to them on their score in the back end. So just be sure that they are aware, and kind of prep them on that presentation, especially if they're unfamiliar with public speaking. In terms of teaming, I do let this teams. The way I set this up is I'm very hands off. Now, again, this works for me with eighth graders. As I mentioned, as I just tell them, teamwork is part of the deal. Your team needs to manage conflict within your team. So if you have a disagreement, I am the last person that you come to. I will intervene if it's tearing the team apart, but the part of the process is managing yourselves, managing your team, meeting these deadlines, kind of letting them take, as I've found from my experience, the more responsibility they take personally in the project, the more it means to them and the more they strive to succeed with it. Um, but again, I teach this as a class. Part of what they're doing is not just for competition; it's for a grade. So I have a little different motivation than maybe somebody who does this as a community group. They're doing it because they don't want to, fail. They want to go to competition, but they're also doing it for a grade. So my experience might be a little different in that regard. What else did I write down for myself here? Okay, well, that's all the things that I wrote down here. I know there's a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, I would love to hear them. But I'm going to, as they say in television, toss it back to Ashley and to get out of your way.
Thanks, TJ. That was great. I really enjoyed the idea of balancing and trading off of what is realistic and idealistic. I think that's really important to keep in mind, and the risks and the pros and cons. So that was really great perspective on it. So thank you. And then Amanda is going to help wrap us up and close us out. But a little bit more about Amanda is she is in her 13th year as an educator. She's taught kindergarten through 8th grade in 3 different states, Georgia, North Carolina, and now Kentucky, where she is currently. She's taught Future City for 10 years. She actually started in North Carolina and brought the program to Kentucky. That was 7 years ago, and so she moved there and began as the talented and gifted educator, and Future City is her favorite project to complete with her students. So thank you for joining us. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so I am Amanda, like she said. This is my 10th year doing Future City, and I've done it multiple different ways, but the last couple of years, our district kind of revamped our talented and gifted program. And so I had to kind of start thinking through a better way of organizing information for students. So if you can go to the slide. So I created a Future City filing cabinet. This is a template from Slide Mania. Um, each of these drawers have different things in it for kids to access. This is on their Google Classroom. We also use the Thrill Share Room app. So it's also on there so their parents can also kind of see what's going on. So everyone kind of starts in that September drawer. And there's different things in there. So like the handbook is linked in there. Specifically, the theme is linked in there with some different videos that I think would help them think through the theme a little bit better. Anything that's a component of the projects is on that topic C. And then I really love the Chat with Changemaker series. So I actually have our kids pick one engineer to watch and take notes on to bring back. So I really make this a very hybrid lesson. So kids have access to all the things in between using the filing cabinet, as well as when they come together as a group, they work as a team in the meetings. So we're meeting twice a month during the school day. All 3 middle schools of students who want to be participating are actually bused to me at the ATC, and my teammates support Future City. And then, so the kids this year got to pick who is on their team. So we have a lot of cross teams. So we have kids that I have teams that have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on it. I have teams that have all 3 of my middle schools on it. And then I have solid teams of just 1 grade level, 1 team. So currently right now we have 8 teams. We met last Friday. That was our first day. And everyone is working through this September handbook. We go through on how to talk as a team, how to work as a team. And then every time we meet, there's like this is what you have to have completed, which is still going back through that handbook. So for us, the first thing they needed to pick was where are they building their city name. And then I always have roles and responsibilities. So I make the roles very career focused. So like I have a project manager, a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, a research engineer, system engineer. Teams can be 5 to 8 students to make sure that they have enough support. Sorry, my kitten's crying at me. To have enough support for each other. So if you click the Future City cabinet, so like just click on the Future City filing cabinet, it should open up. Hopefully it's set up correctly. Each of these filing cabinets, they can just click on an exact filing cabinet. So you can kind of see the assignment is posted right there. It's also posted on Google Classroom, but I always try to make it where it's in one spot. I have discovered this is the easiest way for all my kids to be able to see what they need to be doing than to have it in multiple locations. This took a little bit of back end time, so I do spend a little bit of my summertime going ahead and making the filing cabinet. And as I come across new things, I might add it into the filing cabinet. So this is one of the tools I use. So setting everything up, I do give like hard deadlines for certain pieces of the project, and then they set their schedules around my hard deadlines. I want to make sure that the essay is turned in early enough that I have time to get everybody's essay in on time, and I'm not trying to do it at midnight. So I do make the essay due the Friday before it's due that Wednesday. That way I have time to look over it, read over it one more time before I upload it, and I can make sure everything is correct before it gets uploaded into the system. So that's one of the biggest things I do is make sure there's hard deadlines for myself that the kids have to follow. And then they set their schedule around that. I have in this filing cabinet, they have their whole project plan sheet that has everything they have to get done. And they create their own deadlines. Ideas on this. So I know our essay is normally due mid-December, and he always has everything turned in on that Wednesday. I try to get my kids to have it done by that Friday beforehand so I can be able to read over it and make sure everything is cleaned up before I upload it. So that gives me a few days, but I am managing anywhere between 6 to 8 teams every year. So if I wait to the last minute, it would be too many essays to try to upload on one day. So after we get through September, they'll go into researching. Next week, they're going to be dividing their research questions up, and kids will get to work on research. I'm also giving once a month Saturday optional days where kids can come in and get a little more time with maybe a little more one-on-one time with me and getting that work on that research with some more support. We have about 60 something kids competing this year in our district. So that's quite a few kids and 3 adults. So sometimes we're not as able to give as much attention to helping support that. Especially like our 6th graders, they're really still kind of learning how to do research. So it's a lot about teaching that research skill. And every time they come to a Future City Preparation Day, we are actually teaching some mini lesson that's going to continue to prepare. So like this next time we are going to be teaching, well, how do you research? They're going to be setting their goals. They're going to be creating their schedules. Yes, I would be willing to share this resource. I'm really proud of it. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Sorry, it's been a long day. I work with a lot of kids. So after we get through our research, I make sure that we get to dumping all their research into what I call their first rough draft. Is just basically they either can choose to dump it into like the outline or dump it into the rubric as their outline. And that is their first draft to kind of make sure they have all the information they need. And if they're missing anything, discussing as a team, what else do we need to add? And then like the system engineer is kind of in charge of our essay. So our kids are picking what their strengths are. And once they kind of have their first draft, they can start looking at materials for model building, because every year we collect a lot of recycled materials, and anything that doesn't get used goes into some containers. So I have multiple containers of just old recycled materials that kids can go back through, dig through, find different things. I have my room set up very maker space oriented. So there's a lot of different things that kids can grab and build. And so they can go ahead and start picking out what resources they want for their model. But I do make sure everyone has completed all their research and they kind of know what's in their city before they start their model. One of my other big pieces that I'm very big about is letting kids know, like, when you kind of have wrapped up that first draft of your essay, start thinking early about what your moving part is. And inevitably every year the moving part is like the last thing my teams are thinking about, and we spend a whole lot of time at the end making sure it doesn't collapse. We got the competition a couple years ago. It was a team that ended up winning the DC, but their moving part just quit working day of competition, right before special award judging. And I just had to let them just figure it out. And they got it done. They got it to move again. But it was one of those things where learning how to work through that process, and how to make sure that part keeps moving and keep that engineering design process going, of learning how to make that moving part work. One year, that was the engineering design process. When they were talking about it in their presentation, they actually imagined that was the hardest part of designing their city. It was their transportation. And they literally used that as their focus on the engineering design process, was getting that moving part to work. So that is something I always tell kids that they really need to focus on, is making sure they understand how to get that moving part moving. I know that's a lot. And then for presentation, we do watch a lot of the old presentations so kids can see what it looks like. My regional coordinator, Joe's, like, is half science fair, half Broadway. So I always try to tell kids, like, hey, try to think of something that you can kind of focus your presentation around. Some years we use an acronym. I do tell my kids to come up with an acronym for their city that kind of help keep their presentations focused, keep their essay focused. And then some years they also pick characters. So one year we have Tom Ross. He was the great 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 grandfather of Bob Ross. My kids had to watch Bob Ross in their art class, so they thought it was hilarious that Tom Ross would be a great character, and he was painting the city of New Jabal, because that is what their theme was around. So they normally pick something to help keep them very focused. And I think that's it. Like I said, each of these filing cabinets have a ton of stuff in them, and I do not mind sharing them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. Well, first, I want to say thank you for offering to share that with everyone. I know that took a lot of work and a lot of effort on your part, and I think it's a really great resource. So thank you very much on behalf of all educators, I'm sure. And then second, earlier you mentioned, which I really loved, is Chats with Changemakers. That is another program under Discover E. So Discover E has Future City under it, and then one of the other programs is Chats with Changemakers. And I love that Amanda's using this resource because there are so many great. What it is, it's a webinar series where a student-led host will interview an engineer or someone like a project manager, to understand what they are doing, get insights. And there are all different topics. There's a lot of videos in there about agricultural engineers, really fitting to the theme, civil engineers, mechanical engineers. So that's a great way, and a way to include your students, get ideas. And I can share the link to that, to where you can find those videos, but that's a great resource. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Amanda. So I think if Amanda is willing to share, I can maybe upload into the resources deck so we don't have to email everybody, or I can just send out an email depending on how Amanda wants to share that. But are there any questions specifically for our educators or to the program that we can help answer? Let's see. I see one. We had a really hard time finding a teacher to sponsor team. Can we make a team not associated with the school? None of the team members are in Scouts either. So the teams that are formed, they have to be registered under a state or nationally recognized accredited organization. So unfortunately, you can't just form teams with anyone, like a home group. It has to be, it could be out of school or after school, like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. It could be a YMCA, a local youth group, a 4-H. So anything that is an accredited organization. And if you want help brainstorming, maybe different ideas, I'd be happy to help either connect with you on a call or think about those, but you have to be associated with an accredited organization. But again, I'm happy to help you brainstorm that. But great question. But any other questions? I don't know if there's one in the Q&A. Yes, this call has been recorded and it will be uploaded into the Future City dashboard. So once you register, and if you've already registered, there's a resources tab in your dashboard, and that's where the recording will go, along with the slide deck. I'll put that in there as well. So yes, it was recorded. Oh, Rika, that's a great question. How do we register to be a speaker in Chats with Changemaker? We tried online, but don't see anywhere. Can you send me an email right after this? I can connect you with the program manager for Chats. So my email is ashley@discovere.org. And I will put you in contact. That's great. Thank you for offering that. Let's see. I've contacted the regional coordinator. I've not heard back. As you know, it's crazy. How do you connect with a mentor for the competition? Yeah, so it is a crazy time of the year, I know, for everybody. So if you have had a hard time connecting to your regional coordinator, a lot of times there are volunteers. So it is a consuming time of the year, but you can either reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to help you with anything while you're waiting for that regional coordinator to get back to you. But if you registered and you noted that you would like to be connected with a mentor, then your regional coordinator will go in and match you to someone that is near you. Or if you're open to a virtual mentor, they can help you connect to a virtual mentor. And if that's something that you didn't put in your registration, you can email me and I can help update your registration so that your regional coordinator knows to connect you that way. But then also, if you know someone in your local community who would like to be a mentor, they can register and you can request to be connected to them. So if you have questions on that specifically, feel free to reach out to me. I can help with that. Oh, yes, great, TJ. So TJ is presenting at the NSTA conference in Minneapolis. So he's happy to talk in person if anyone is attending or if you want information. I'm sure, well, I don't want to volunteer, TJ, but I would be able to connect you maybe possibly. But
No, absolutely. That was kind of the thing. So if any of you are Minneapolis bound, first of all, welcome to the best city in the world. Second of all, if you want to meet in person to talk some shop, I will be at the conference Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be presenting all 3 days, so I'll be there. So if you want the inside scoop or want to talk some dirt or whatever you want to do, reach out. Happy to hang.
thank you, TJ.
Ashley, this is Susan. I also want to shout out to Chats with Changemakers this season because our new host of the series this year is actually Luke from Michigan, who is a Future City alum, just great going into high school. And so he will be your new host this chat season. So he has made it to finals multiple times. But if y'all want to support another Future City student on their journey, he's the new host. So certainly tune in for those episodes or watch the recordings because he's going to be meeting with some awesome people in the professional world this year. So.
Val, sorry, I see your question. I just got lost up there because there's so many questions. Your parent, how do I find a coach or mentor in San Diego? When is the deadline to register and when is the competition date? Those are great questions. So if your student is a part of any after school program or local program, or there's an educator at their school that could be interested in taking on this project, you would just need an educator that is associated with that organization, and then 3 students, grades 6 through 8, to form a team. So I would just recommend, if you're a part of an after school or have any ideas, or could reach out to an educator at your school. That's a great way to get your team in. And then the deadline to register is October 31st for full competition. So if you want to compete in your regional competition, submit your deliverables. You have to be registered in our system by October 31st. And then after that, if you want to register as resource only, which gives you free access to everything, the handbook, the other resources, that's open past October 31st. So you can register after that. And then your competition date, so it varies by your region. But I believe both, there's Northern California and Southern California, and I believe both have put in their competition dates on our website, futurecity.org/regions. And then they'll have the exact competition date in there. Let's see. Oh, Robin, how do we listen to the young man? For Chats with Changemakers. So they are recorded webinars that go up. It's a monthly series, and the recordings go up on discovere.org's website. So you can watch them on demand. You can share them. We have been putting them. Susan, thank you. She just put the link in, but highly recommend. We're very excited for this. Luke is going to do great as the host. And there's a lot of already recorded episodes. So, and if you've been receiving your, if you're registered, you should be receiving your Future City newsletter each month. And there's videos around the theme that from Chats with Changemakers, so you can watch those to help spark ideas. And then again, the theme webinar, where we'll have 3 panelists, one from Shell, one's the University of Tennessee, and then ASABE, and they will share a little bit about their experiences to spark ideas, and then that will also be recorded, but it is on Wednesday. So if you haven't registered, go ahead and register so you can attend that theme webinar. And we'll also be sending out an email with the registration link. Yeah. See, do students and educator coach have to be? Yes, Val, the students and the educator or coach, they all have to be from the same organization. Are there any other questions or any other questions for our educators that they might be able to help answer? I think there's a hand up, but Emily, I see your hand up. If you haven't had a chance to put your question into the chat, feel free. Or if I've missed it, I'm sorry. All right. So thank you everyone for being on the call today. Again, the recording will be uploaded into the dashboard. And please reach out if you have any questions or need anything else. And then thank you so much to TJ, Amanda, and Juliet. We really appreciate your advice and your tips and tricks and your experience. Thank you for volunteering to be here today.